Hello there, YouTube. I'm trying to light a bowl of Sutliff Great Outdoors in my Dagner pipes, Devilans. And for the purpose of this video, I'm tamping it with the most metal tamper I have. Done by the same guy that did the tamper for the giveaway, the one that Nom de Tube got. It's raining and it's pretty cold out there. I looked at the thermometer before I sat down. It was something like 11 Celsius. So it's cold. Perfect summer for me, if you ask me. Okay, now then, first and foremost, quick shout out. Tennessee Bull is holding his 200 subscribers giveaway. If you haven't done so already, go give him a sub and give him a VR. It's got a pretty interesting question. I'm still thinking about how to answer it myself. But the purpose of this video is another VR. To the man himself, Chad Yarbrough, who is, like I said, the heart and soul of the YTPC, if you ask me. When I learned that it was his 200 something subscriber giveaway, I was just amazed. I thought he should have several thousand subscribers by now, but oh well. Numbers will grow, I'm sure. Okay, so without further ado, on to the giveaway questions. First, the question about the pennies. I tried my best to do a simple calculation based on the volume, dimensions and volume of a single penny, and the fact that it was a 1 gallon jar, but of course numbers are not my strong side, to say the least. And besides, the pennies, it's not water or sand. They don't fill up the entire space of the inside the jar. There's small spaces and air between them, so I don't know. If I had a sack, of real US pennies, I could have probably made a better calculation, but as with all the, variables, the number I came up with is, let me check on that, 4,805 pennies. That's my guess. No. I'm having pretty low hopes. Oh well. On to the second question. The dream band. Man, that's a tough one. As you could probably guess by the temper and my fucking open air t-shirt I'm wearing, I'll be wearing some other t-shirt in the future. I promise. I have a bunch, but it was the closest one at the moment. So you might have guessed by now, I'm going to make this heavy metal band. I probably told you people that I went through a number of stages with my heavy music preferences. I started with sort of symphonic bands like Therion and sappy female vocal style bands like Nightwish, early Theatre of Tragedy. Then I went to what I affectionately refer to now as pop black, Cradle of Filth, Dimmu Borgir. Although I still have favorite albums from these bands that I listen to a lot. Then I went into sort of an extreme genre. I was listening to Marduk, which is a black metal band, true black metal band, and Nile, which is a death metal band. And throughout this time, I was also listening to classical new wave British heavy metal like Iron Maiden. I'm a huge Maiden fan. Finally, I think at this point the thing that I like the most about heavy music is the heaviness itself. So the sound and the structure and the riff, the almighty heavy metal riff. So that's the band I'll try to put. More of a mid to slow tempo classical early metal band with some experimentations, of course, because it's not the 70s right now. Please be aware, there will be lots of names of people you probably don't know. Sorry about that if you're not metal fans. I looked throughout the other VRs. People are focusing more on classical rock, blues, country. That's understandable. No, but I want to be original. Like I said, we are talking early heavy metal, so there will be no, I think, extreme metal musicians, because there's a ton. There's a topic for a whole separate list. I also deliberately left out, the living icons, people that have, are a band or a genre all in themselves. Because they will, I think, do more harm than good to a performance of a band, as a group of individuals. I love this when Dave Grohl of Nirvana and currently Foo Fighters, he had a project called Probat, and on one of his songs he enlisted. There were many guest musicians, and there's a song on that disc called Shake Your Blood, and he invited Scott Weinrich. Some may know him by his nickname Wino. He's a former guitarist of The Obsessed, current guitarist of The Obsessed, and singer of Saint Vitus. And to play the guitar, Grohl was playing the drums, and he invited Lemmy of Motorhead to play bass and sing. And I was looking at the video. They made a video with a bunch of half-naked girls. I was looking at it and thinking to myself, well, that's a great Motorhead song, because Lemmy with his vocals and his bass completely took over, and it was his song, not Grohl's. So I'm leaving people like that aside, like Ozzy, for example. So, if we're going heavy metal, and we are going for the almighty riff, heavy metal is full of great guitarists. Guitar is the foundation of the genre. Like I mentioned, Scott Weinrich of Obsessed and Saint Vitus, Victor Griffin from Pentagram. If we take more, classical rock, and balls out guitarists, I love Chris Holmes from Wasp. He was fabulous in this band. I like, Matt Pike from, the very important stoner metal band Sleep, and he's now in the band called High on Fire, which is also amazing. If we take a more, progressive approach, I must name Mikael Åkerfeldt from the band Opeth, who's a great songwriter, very interesting, if not technical player. But if I had to pick one guitar player, that's obvious. First choice is Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath. Here we have a man who basically invented the genre single-handedly. If Deep Purple, with their Smoke on the Water riff, with 3 power chords, defined the rock sound, Tony Iommi managed to define heavy metal with 3 fucking notes. So, you hear the intro for Black Sabbath. You hear him hitting this tritone and, that's heavy metal. It's gurgling sorry. So Tony Iommi is the first choice. Any period Tony Iommi, up to his, retirement, semi-retirement right now. I saw him live a couple of times, and each time he was amazing. Yes, I was being a sort of a very, very pathetic guitar player myself. That was just something out of this world. And he's also, a riff master in terms of composing and coming up with riffs. It's just something amazing. Now then, I very much like power trios, but if I have to choose 5 musicians, I have to choose a second guitar player. Anyone of the people I've mentioned might be great, but this time I'll go with a completely unknown, well, at least to the general public, completely unknown name. The guy is called Brett Campbell, and he is a frontman slash guitar player slash primary songwriter of a band called Paul Bearer, and it's an amazing band. If you haven't heard these guys, please go and listen to them. These are, they are hailed as the saviors of the modern, classical doom metal. it's 100% true. They put out 3 records. They haven't disappointed me. With each one is amazing. And I think it has to do a great deal with Campbell's guitar playing, as well as his approach to music, to composition, and he's also a singer in the band with very sort of thin and eerie voice you don't really expect from a heavy metal singer, but it suits their music perfectly. So they are amazing. I'll put it that way. They have, the most bone-crushing riffs I've heard in a long, long time, down-tuned, because they tune to A standard, I think. So this just, it will liquefy your skull. And at the same time, they may they have a song called Ashes, which I think at this moment is the song I'd like to be played when I'm lowered down into my final resting place. So that's a compliment, isn't it? Okay, on to the rhythm section. Rhythm section, well, the obvious choice for balls out forward bass player, that will be Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath, but we already have Tony Iommi, so he's out of the equation. Yeah, heavy metal has, a whole pantheon of great bass players, But I'm more gravitating towards, more or less unknown. Like Al Cisneros from Sleep. Now he plays in a band called Om. Jeff Matz from High on Fire again is amazing, very, in-your-face bass player. If we take a more laid-back approach, Scott Reeder, who played in Caius, which is it's not technically a metal band, but he's still amazing. If we talk more experimental band, Brian Cook from the post-metal band Russian Circles is an amazing bass player. Martin Mendes from Opeth is great. But these are all, unknown names. I have to bring in someone at least more or less known to general public. So I'll choose Cliff Burton, the first bass player of Metallica. I must say I'm not a Metallica fan. Sorry, they're fans watching. I don't like their music. I do give them credit for their first albums, but not my cup of tea, sorry. However, I think no one can deny that Cliff was an excellent technical bass player. With a lot of feel. He also managed to bring some progressive influences into Metallica's songwriting and his bass lines. Which I think will benefit if the band is writing their own music, writing them together, he will surely be an asset to the band. phone ran out of memory. Had to get this portion onto the PC and clear up some space. Now then, drummers. No. First time I say that, heavy metal has a whole, pantheon of amazing drummers nowadays. Being the technical type of music it is. We have Dave Lombardo of Slayer. We have George Callias from Nile. Gene Hogan, who played in a bunch of projects, starting from Death, Strapping Young Lad, and God knows what. Fans call him the Atomic Clock. I just love this nickname. That's pretty cool. But those don't really suit the the early metal vibe. To me, early metal is all about feel and sort of in a way, a minimalist approach. There are not many drummers that do this stuff nowadays. It's all about the technique, double bass, patterns, huge drum kits, the whole thing. So I was looking at lesser known bands, and I was choosing between, Bill Ward obviously comes to mind, but, he's a Sabbath musician, so he's out of the equation. In the end, I was choosing between, I'm gonna butcher his name, I'm afraid, Dave Turnkrantz from the post-metal band Russian Circles. It was sort of a very, in a way, progressive, but at the same time minimalist type of drummer who uses a relatively small kit, but he's just, outstanding. My second choice was Des Cancel from High on Fire, who's a very in-your-face, almost like a thrash metal drummer. And I also thought about John Sherman from the band called Red Fang, which is sort of a stoner metal type of band, and he is a very just engaging drummer. You can just watch him performing. That I think is an asset in itself, because metal is sometimes is about showmanship. But then I thought, all these names mean nothing to you people. You don't know these guys probably. So what am I pitching to you here? And I thought about that, and I went to the bare minimum, to the beginning of heavy metal, as with Tony Iommi on guitar, I went with my choice for the ideal drummer will be John Bonham of Led Zeppelin, because you know how can you go wrong with a person who is, you know, usually called the best drummer in rock music in general, and also the first heavy metal drummer, the first foundation of heavy metal drumming comes from him, so he's a natural choice. A fierce drummer, an experimental drummer, and a force, you hear force behind his playing, which is very important. So this leaves us with the last but not least, the vocalist. And man, this is a hard choice. Not necessarily because there's a big selection. I'm pretty picky about vocalists. Because I used to sing myself, but in a completely different genre. Sorry, I keep relating my pipes in all my videos. I cannot help myself. The problem with a vocalist, with a frontman, is that he's the face of the band. So you're projecting a certain impression onto the band. For example, like I said, I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan, but there are no Iron Maiden members in the list, because Iron Maiden is it's a band. It's not it's the sum of the parts, not the musicians. To me, I absolutely adore Adrian Smith, the guitar player. You cannot deny the role of Steve Harris. You cannot deny that Bruce Dickinson is the voice of the new wave of British heavy metal. Sorry, Rob Halford fans, I'm going Bruce Dickinson all the way. But he won't be suitable for this type of band, in my opinion. So, no. Or another variant. Quite a modern variant. Devin Townsend, who's done a ton of stuff. You just look at what he's done and it just baffles me. Not only is he a hugely versatile vocalist who can do amazing clean singing with a huge range, he can also do harsh vocals, he can do screams, he can do growling. It just... Plus he can play guitar, he can play bass, he can record everything, he can mix everything. There are albums he done completely on his own, playing all the instruments and programming the the drum parts. It's I could just pick him. That'll be a great band. So I wanted no iconic frontman, and not something that will suit my sort of a minimalist band approach. So I was choosing between Tony Martin, who you might remember. I know him as a singer on the Black Sabbath's album called Headless Cross, which I think is very underappreciated album. I like this album. I like his singing, what he does in it. and surprisingly Dee Snider from the band Twisted Sister, who is a very Twisted Sister in general is a very unappreciated band, because it's usually pigeonholed into this sort of a glam metal stable. And his stage image, doesn't really help in this department. But he's a hugely underappreciated vocalist. He's sort of a just classic rock / metal vocalist with amazing delivery, beautiful phrasing, beautiful harshness to his voice. I just love him. So I was thinking about those two, and then I completely turned everything on my head, and I said, what the fuck, I'm just gonna go with probably my favorite voice ever, and that'll be the second name no one knows about in my list. So that'll be Anneke van Giersbergen. Beautiful vocalist from the band Gathering. She is... you see, I'm making pauses. I don't even know how to begin talking about her. When she joined the Gathering, they were sort of a typical doom metal band with a low growling male vocalist and a female singing high soprano, or something like that. I don't remember. And she immediately turned the band around. They became more experimental and started to move away from heavy metal into sort of a alternative rock, trip rock, and finally she split from them, and she's having a pretty successful solo career right now. I'm gonna put links to videos of probably all, except Tony Iommi, because everyone knows him, all the players I've mentioned that will be in my dream band, and I'll put several probably links to clips of Anneke singing, because there's such a range. Amazing. In the Gathering she did at first sort of a very powerful, clean singing that reminds me somewhat of Russian folk singing, on the verge of breakup, on the verge of harshness, but beautiful, strong delivery and punch and range and amazing vocal melodies. I'm just in awe to this day of her work with the Gathering. Mendelian, Nighttime Birds. It's just... And what is even more amazing for me is that at the same time she can do amazingly clean, clear and soothing vocals. She does lots of ballads, and it's just I don't know. I saw her. I didn't see her with the Gathering, unfortunately. I saw her with her nowadays solo band, sort of a pop rock band. I saw her when she was touring with Danny Kavanagh from the band Anathema, and they were doing anything from, you know, anathema songs, gathering songs, you know, Massive Attack, everything they thought interesting, and she was excellent in everything. Basically, to me, almost everything she touches turns into music gold. So, there you have it. My dream band. Just to recap. Lead and rhythm guitar, Tony Iommi. Lead and rhythm guitar again, Brett Campbell. Bass, Cliff Burton. Drums, John Bonham. May he rest in peace. And may Cliff Burton rest in peace. And frontman slash vocalist slash guitar player slash keyboard player, Anneke von Gersbergen. That's it. I think this video is immensely long by now. Begging your pardon for this one, but you know, music and heavy metal is my thing, so I'm getting quite talkative. Please go support Chad Yarbrough if you haven't done this already. You know, if anyone deserves subs and popularity and likes, subscriptions, that's him. Believe me. Also, please go support Tennessee Bull in his small but very cozy giveaway. I'm gonna be back soon with more videos. I'm gonna try to film more within the weekend. You all people have a nice weekend, and no, I'll be back. See you soon. Goodbye.